This video is in response to a question I got up on ar15.com asking about the differences between our reticle and the primary arms ACSS reticles. There's a lot of different videos, very good videos, explaining the different versions. There's several versions of the primary arms ACSS reticles. So I'll let you go to those and look at them, and then after you're familiar with that reticle, you can compare it to our reticle. So we're going to explain about our reticle. This is a version, it's not the exact thing, but this is a version of our newest reticle, the T1 reticle that we are putting in the 1.1 by 10 by 30 millimeter FSO full spectrum optic. Okay, it is a dual purpose reticle. It is designed to be used from point blank in your face distances, room distances, to 1,200 yards. So what we're going to cover right now is just the horseshoe portion of the reticle and how it is to be used. In another segment we'll cover the rest of the reticle. Okay, so the unique thing about this reticle is what I call the rule, R-U-L-E, the rule of 10 inches ranging system. The way I was taught in the military, that the average adult male, and remember this is a tactical reticle designed for combat, so that's your target, a man. The average adult male would be from his head, from the chin to the top of the head, would be about 8 to 10 inches. Shoulder width would be about 18 to 20 inches. Half of that is 10 inches, and when you turn a man sideways, body width, mid-sternum, he would be about 10 to 12 inches thick. So the majority of this reticle, it's an anatomical reticle, it's basic, think of it as a scale, based on the human body, and the majority of the lines and dots and everything are in 10-inch increments, all right, to match the human body. So from room distance to 300 yards, your horseshoe will be used for speed and what we used to use the term called combat accuracy, a good, quick, vital zone hit on a human being. So the way it works, you zero your weapon so that the bullet hits on this dot at 100 yards, okay? That sets up the rest of the scale, and you do not touch your turrets again. So from 100 yards, actually it's from 15 yards to 300 yards, your bullet will hit from the dot in the center of the horseshoe to the bottom of the horseshoe. Now because of offset up close, like 7 yards in a room, your scope sits higher than the bore of your rifle, so your bullet will actually hit lower. At 7 yards, your bullet will hit down here at the 800-yard aiming point. That looks like a lot of distance on the reticle, on the picture here, but in reality it's not. What this works out to be in real world is that that horseshoe right there is on the middle of my forehead. The 800-yard dot would be on the tip of my nose. Okay, so in a hostage type situation, you want to put the bullet in the triangle. That's where you put the horseshoe right on the top of the head, and the bullet would hit right here, okay, at the 800-yard aiming point. But from 15 yards to 300 yards, your bullet hits from the center of the horseshoe to the bottom of the horseshoe. Now again, the way I designed this horseshoe to be used for snapshots and fast shooting to 300 yards, this window right here, the hollow center, I refer to that as a window, that window is 10 inches at 100 yards. So this is a 9-inch plate, close enough to government work. So that whole window right there will cover your head. Basically your head fits in the window at 100 yards and the bullet hits in the center. At 200 yards, this window is now 20 inches. So from the top of the head to right about here, mid-sternum, okay, I should say the bottom of your sternum, that's 20 inches, and the bullet will hit just below the dot, okay? So that window is 10 inches at 100 yards, 20 inches at 200 yards. It is 30 inches at 300 yards, so 30 inches at 300, 10, it's 20, there's 30, right about it just below my belly button at 300 yards. So from, again, 15 yards to 300 yards, your bullet will hit from the center to the bottom of the horseshoe. So what that amounts to is, up close and personal, this horseshoe that is, again, anatomically designed, it says 20 inches shoulder width at 100 yards, 20 inches right there. 20 inches at 200 yards shoulders, 20 inches at 300 yards, okay? This window, 10 inches at 100 yards, 20 inches at 200 yards, 30 inches at 300 yards. That same horseshoe Up close though, a person looks bigger when he's close to you than when he's farther away. At 300 yards, a person looks smaller. The horseshoe will look bigger. As a person gets farther away from you, the person looks smaller. The horseshoe appears bigger. Doesn't change in size, but that's the way it works. Okay, so the horseshoe that covers you shoulder to shoulder at 100 yards, at 10 yards in a room, 30 feet. That's a pretty good sized room. That whole horseshoe is 2 inches. Okay, just put the dot on the guy and pull the trigger. As the guy gets farther away, he'll start to fit into the window, or the horseshoe will start getting bigger on his body, out to 300 yards, as I just showed you. The half of the body will fit in that window, and the bullet will hit just below the bottom, right here at the bottom of the horseshoe. So what that means is, up close and personal, put the horseshoe on the guy, pull the trigger. As he gets farther away, he'll appear smaller, the horseshoe will look bigger. Again, keep him in the window. You'll get a little bit of daylight on each side at 300 yards. Just basically center him up, and even if you forget at 300 yards, if you forget to raise your aiming point, you're still going to gut shoot him or get him in the pelvis. That's a good shot. So that's what the horseshoe is designed to do for speed work from 0 to 300 yards, and that would be at your lower magnifications, 1 power or something like, 1 power, 2 power. Okay, and that's a good point also. The first ever scopes in the world, the 1 to 6s, were designed for me, or I should say manufactured for me, with this horseshoe design in it. The 1 power was intended for CQB, for room distances. If I was out walking around in the field, I'd actually be having my scope right about 1 3/4, maybe 2 power. The reason being, that little bit of magnification really helps in getting more precise shots at the longer distances. But you still, at 2 power, you still have a good wide field of view, and the scope is very fast to use. So that would cover the horseshoe portion of the reticle, and then we're going to go over the rest of the next segment. All this information, a lot of videos, actual pictures of the reticle on actual people, can be found at our website, which is GRSCINC.com, GRSCinc.com. Thank you very much.